Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. I'm recording this in June of 2023. It could be the beginning of a very unusual kind of recession that is affecting people at the top end of the economic scale more so than the bottom. And there's a lot of push by tech giants like Google to get people back into the office. Now, I think Google, whether they realized it or not, made some startling omissions this past week. Google was getting tougher on in-office work and says it will consider attendance in employee performance reviews. Now, read between the lines. What are they saying? They're going to consider things other than performance, like whether or not you go to the office in your performance review, right? That's what they're saying, whether or not they realized it. Well, if they're going to consider things outside of performance, what's to say they're not going to consider anything unrelated to work, right? Your sexual orientation, how you live your life, or I'm so glad I'm not working there anymore. They have I don't know if they still do this after COVID, but they give out a lot of free food in their cafeteria. If you have different eating habits than the rest of them, if you have to refuse various foods, right? I find it difficult to completely decouple your eating habits with your work. I mean, you can decouple your sexual orientation and not tell there. You could decouple your religion, probably. Sometimes you might have to call off on a religious day off, right? So that's kind of tricky as well. I tend to, for religious purposes, I'm not very religious, but if a bunch of my clients, I work at a tutoring center, are going to go on a fast for religion, I'll usually go with them because I love fasting anyway, and it becomes like a support for all of them, right? And but good luck trying to hide your eating habits in the closet, right? You can maybe hide your hobbies in the closet, but then again, if there's a day off, you need to call. But Google has basically, whether or not they like to admit it, admitted that they have a habit of including things other than performance in a performance review. Right? You might as well call it a bigotry review, right, at this point in time, right? All right, I thought I would point that out. It always pays to read in between the lines of what's going on. Company previously said that April 2022 employees would be expected back in the office at least 3 days a week. You know, if you're going to send people back into the office, I mean, at least don't do it 3 times a week, right? Maybe you have rotating groups of people in the office so that at least the rest of the time these people aren't intruded by See, if I'm going to go to the office 3 days a week, I might as well go 5 days a week at that point, right? Because I got to live in the Phoenix area. It's not like I could go hide out in Wallace, Idaho, right? And it already puts a barrier to other activities I might want to do anyway. The other thing I want to say is that there's a lot of overhead that comes from going into the office, and I'm not just talking about the commute time, right? You have to dress correctly, you have to take a shower and all that. I can personally attest 8 hours in the office is like 12 hours of remote work in terms of the effort required and the life disruptions involved. Not to mention it's considerably more expensive, right? I don't need to tell people how expensive it is to drive to the office, but it's not the only expense, right? Then you got your clothing, and sometimes you got to eat out, and there's a lot of expense that goes into it that I think a lot of these companies are overlooking. Mind you, it's expense that I would rather be reinvesting into my work, right? So, for example, right now I'm getting ready to go to a conference on the Computer Olympia to update my skills, right? I'd rather be putting my money there than on my stupid commuting and eating and clothing that is required just to show up to a stupid office, and that they have to pay a good amount of rent toward, right?